Yo, what's going on, everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about raising ducks. We're going to go over the full guide, but wait. This is the last one. We need to make this one the best one, okay? Alright, so we're going to start off by talking about the best breeds of ducks that you could possibly get. Now, the two I have, and the two I'd recommend are Rowans and Cayugas. Now, the downside of having Cayugas is that they're extremely hard to tame, but they can be tamed. They just sort of lay their eggs. They start off by laying black eggs, but they progressively get more turned into a gray as they lay throughout the first year. The Rowans are literally looking like mallards, but they are basically much bigger versions of the mallards, and they do lay more eggs, I will say. And the ones I'll also recommend are Pekings, which are the ones that are the big white ones that everyone loves to talk about within the ducks community. It's pretty cool. I would recommend Pekings as well, although I've never had one. I've seen many of them, and from my experience, they've been really friendly. Now, next up, we start talking about the brooder essentials. Now, these are the essentials that you're going to need to put in your brooder, and trust me, there are a lot of them. First of all, you can use a combination of shavings and straw, or just straw. Those are the only ones you could do because, oh boy, even as babies, they are messy, and I mean extremely messy ducks. So the next part I'd recommend is obviously a brooder, which should go without saying, but obviously the next one I would recommend here is going to be a paint can. Now, you're like, what? Why a paint can? Well, obviously, you need their food and water, right? But you want to put the water on top of the paint tray. Obviously, you want to cover, the top of it with, something like mesh or something like that can, support the water. But, oh my, those ducks love to make a mess. And from experience, they will sometimes splash it out of there. So, small water that can be refilled more and make a less mess, or big water that needs to be refilled less but makes a humongous mess, regardless of the size of that paint tray. So, paint trays, please, everyone. You should get a paint tray for your duck. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about taking the ducks for a swim, and no, this doesn't mean that I have to buy a $50,000 luxurious pool with all the latest technology put in it. Nope. All you gotta do is get one of those clear plastic not trays, I was about to say tray. You want to get those clear plastic buckets that are at least 12 inches deep, fill that up with some nicely warm, about 70 to 90 degree bath water, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the duck inside of that bath water. Any of your ducks, make sure it's big enough to support all of your ducks, and you want to do this at about 4 weeks of age, because at that point their glands are just about developed for swimming, and this is a great first experience for them. So wait at least 28 days before they can begin swimming, please. Alright, so next up we're going to be talking about building duck coops. Welcome to the second part of the video. There's only 3 parts, unfortunately. Now, here's the cool part about building the duck coop, is that it doesn't need straw, it just needs shavings. At least 6 square feet of space for each duck is necessary. Obviously, that could be really different depending on the state. I'm just going with I typically like to go with 6 square feet of space per duck on the floor. Does not require any roosting bars because ducks don't like to jump. Even if they are wild breeds, they still don't really need roosting bars because they like to sleep on the ground, typically for most ducks. And another thing is, you don't need water in the chicken coop, unless, of course, it's the first couple days. We'll get into that in just a second, though, as, yeah, you don't really need the water in the coop. It'll just make a mess, and it'll reduce the amount of times per day you have to clean that coop from, 2 times a day to, once every week, or sometimes even once every other week. Once you get the hang of the strategies, it's really easy to care for ducks, and as a matter of fact, they're actually somewhat less messy than chickens if you get it correctly. Alright, so next we're talking about the general cleaning tips for this duck coop. I said chicken coop in the last clip, and I didn't realize until I edited it, and I felt really stupid. Either way, though, the cleaning tips are really simple. First of all, you don't want to have water in the coop unless it's the first couple days. Now, here's what I want you to do for the first couple days of the ducks being in the coop, is lock them in there for the first couple days. Obviously, if you have a window, maybe open it a little bit so that way they get some fresh air, but other than that, it doesn't need to be open so that way they get used to the coop. That's what we did with the farm flock for about 2 days, and it's that way it's indented into their heads that they know a place that they could go back to at night or for safety during the day, as nothing really would like to get into the coop during the day. But other than that, another general cleaning tip is to use shavings, as I said in the previous clip, and then also, because they're so much easier to move I would only recommend using straw if it's like really cold out, like if the temperatures are supposed to dip below 10 degrees for 2 consecutive nights in a row, or below 0 degrees for at least one night, then I would 100% recommend using that sort of stuff for your chicken coop. It'll make it a whole lot better. And I just said chicken coop and not duck coop. What the? Oh boy, we got one that's very dependable, but something that, like, really a lot of people ask. Now, unfortunately, this question's really hard to answer, as a lot of ducks start laying later or earlier. Now, my Cayuga ducks started laying in and around late March of 2021, and we got them in August of 2020. You could do the math there. And then on Easter Day 2021, which is sometime in and around mid-April 2021, was when we got our first rowan egg. So you can look up some of the statistics on this sort of stuff for your duck. Just insert into Google, when does insert duck breed here start laying eggs, and you'll bound to find a couple of results, unless it's some brand new duck breed that you whipped up in your own backyard and decided to call it something. Now, this is one that I can answer in just a few seconds. Nope, not even in the slightest. They're not that noisy. Now, I'll tell you why they're not that noisy real quick, because ducks just have that tendency to just not be that noisy. I don't know what it is. It's just the ducks they aren't that loud. Obviously, they do quack, like, a lot, but the quacks are typically fairly quiet. The only time, if you hear a loud quack, like, let's just say the ducks are, like, 30 feet from you, and you're just chilling in your room, I don't know, let's just say, maybe whipping up a video like I'm doing right now, and you hear a loud quack, run outside, grab your speaker a couple minutes after you check on them, and maybe blast some loud music, as I said in one of my previous video essays, because obviously there might be something trying to get to them, or something might have already got to them. That's one of the first things I'd always do. Unfortunately, I can't get my hands on a Bluetooth speaker quite yet, but it would be pretty cool to do so in the future. So please comment down below if you would do that same thing as well. Now, next up we're going to be talking about male ducks. Do you really need them? No, you don't. Are they necessary? No. Will they help protect the ducks? In a way. Although the ducks do really help with predator protection and prevention, they are a little bit more useless than roosters. Unless it's my rooster falcon, then of course they're way more useful than that. Well, obviously, why wouldn't they be? It's my rooster falcon. He serves just about no purpose other than to make some noise and wake me up at 5:03 a.m. Either way, the one and only reason you might possibly need them is for breeding and possibly protection, but it's not really necessary, as these types of ducks just aren't really meant for protection. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, female ducks, when they're just chilling in the yard, they love to stare down the hawks, and I'll tell you what, they're pretty intimidating, as they're much bigger than the chickens, and they're really hard to take away. Unless you're talking about like a coyote or bobcat, then they can probably take them away without ease, unfortunately. Well, I also really hate to be that guy, but be sure to click the video on the screen right now. It's my entire playlist filled to the brim with video essays, and unfortunately the video does have to come to an end, but trust me, next week there will be a second part to this video, as there's a little bit too much untold information. Anyways, I'm out. Subscribe.